Alright, so the second part of the regression slope t-test is actually to be able to do a 95% confidence interval. And how it works is you actually take the slope, and we established already in the previous part that the slope for this question was 4.49. Then you're going to take t star for n minus 2 degrees of freedom, and if you recall, n was 24. There was 24 students, so in this case here it's going to be t star 22 degrees of freedom. And then the last thing we need to do in order to create our confidence interval is find the standard error of the slope. So how you do that is basically how this t value comes from is it uses the equation t equals the actual slope in our question minus b sub 1 all over the standard error of the slope. So in this case here what happens is that since beta sub 1 is 0, this is basically 0 here, so I can just go ahead and erase that. So it turns out that the standard error, if you go ahead and solve this here for the standard error of our slope ends up being the actual slope in the question divided by t. So up here what we're going to do is we're going to take the slope in our question and divide by t. That's what the standard error is equal to. So coming up with some numbers here using the chart for t values. What is t star with 22 degrees of freedom for 95%? That would be 2.074. And then if you were to take the actual slope, which is negative 4.49, and divide by t, that would be negative 2.893. This basically sets up our confidence interval here. And as you all know, everything to the right of the plus or minus is the margin of error. So go ahead and grab your calculator right now and do that. And when I did this, I wound up with 3.22. And when you go ahead and add and subtract 3.22 from the slope, you're going to get this as your range. Negative 1.27 to negative 7.71. So now the question is, once we have the numbers, what does that all mean? So of course we're going to go ahead and lead off with what we usually do, which is we are 95% confident, because that's the interval that we're doing here. However, these numbers here have to do with the actual slope, so that's delta y over delta x, and if you recall, y was the actual test score and x was the anxiety level. I'll just abbreviate that ANXI. So what happens is we're going to convert this into confidence intervals meet interpreting slope in context. So we say we are 95% confident that, and we're going to talk about why here, so that test scores decrease, and we use this range of values here. So we're going to say decrease 1.27 to 7.71 points, and then it's per each point increase in anxiety. So really all this is it's combining what we already know about confidence intervals with what we know about slope into one big statement here. So that is how you do a 95% confidence interval for a regression slope.